The runes and Bitcoin ecosystem have been absolutely popping off, and I figured it was about time that I make a weekly update video covering all of the major news happening with all of the top runes, as well as some different ordinal projects and just Bitcoin ecosystem news in general. So in this video, I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to go over the top 10 runes, all of the different updates that you guys need to know, as well as some projects that I have my eyes on. But without further ado, guys, let's get into it. Now, the runes market has been going crazy, and if you've been watching this channel for a while, I was actually making a lot of different runes videos before they even came out. And a week after these runes launched, a lot of people were saying they were dead, blah, 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 blah. But if you paid attention to what happened to BRC20 tokens and how they really popped off once Binance added support, you would have known to continue to pay attention. And I think it's still extremely early when it comes into this whole entire Bitcoin ecosystem. Now, right now, the top 10 largest market caps are FeHu, you have Dog Go to the Moon, RSIC, Pups, Bank of Nakamoto Dollar, Lobo the Wolf Pup, Epic, Decentralized, Satoshi Nakamoto, and Runeix. And I'm going to be going over all these tokens today as well as some more. One of the analytic tools that I wanted to bring up at the start of this video is actually called Gennidata, and you might have heard of this before, but it is a runes indexer that has all of this different analytics for every single runes project out there. And it's a really great way to look at the market cap, which has gone from under $1 billion this whole entire time to over 2 billion, about 2.1 billion today. And it also tracks all of the different volume, as well as these different tickers, the amount of holders they have, the distribution, etc., etc. I really like using this tool, and if you're someone that's trying to find some of the hot mints going on, you can actually go to their top mint tab, and you can actually see the percentage of these different runes actually being mined or minted, and you can go to the top trading tab and sort by market cap, the amount of holders, circulating supply, etc., etc. So really great platform, and I highly recommend using it. And one of the things that I really like to pay attention to is actually the volume, which is up over 24% today. And this is before a lot of centralized exchanges add support, which I'll get into in a little bit here. Another thing that's really nice is that it actually has all of the different marketplaces for the floor, including OKX. So most of the time, it actually gives you the best place to buy these different runes, which is very useful because sometimes in this Bitcoin ecosystem where the infrastructure isn't there yet, there have been some price discrepancies where you can get a better deal on one platform over the other. I think volume is one of the most important indicators when it comes to this rune space, and there's so many different projects that are constantly releasing that are just total junk. But if you're able to pay attention to some of the ones that have a lot of volume, you can see some of the demand for those tokens. And for me personally, my major strategy when it comes to this market is mostly investing in the top 10 or the first 10 etched, including the ones that are having a lot of volume. And that's been my main strategy because they have the most exposure and the most amount of people paying attention to it. And because I think centralized exchanges have a huge impact on these different runes simply because the infrastructure isn't there for Bitcoin yet, and it's a big pain in the ass and all the gas fees, blah, 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 I personally think centralized exchange listings are even that much more important. And as we start seeing all these different centralized exchanges tease or add in support, I'm really looking at the ones that I think are going to get listed, such as Dog, such as Decentralized, such as RSIC potentially. A lot of these ones in the top 10 have a much higher likelihood. Another thing that I quickly wanted to point out before getting into these other projects is a lot of the market has been going on a crazy pump. And in my personal non-financial advice opinion, I think this is just the beginning because a lot of these CEXs haven't added support yet. But you can see some of the top coins such as Bank of Nakamoto going up over 41% today. You can see $1 billion Dog, very similar to $1 billion Cat going on a run, and some of these other top projects here. And of course, you can look at Magic Eden that has a different time frame on some of these tokens, but you'll see a lot of them are pumping hard simply because a lot more exposure and a lot more education is going into the space. And I think people are realizing that this is probably not a fad at this point and has some long-term potential simply because all these major players like Binance are getting involved. Speaking of all this centralized exchange talk, you have all of the major centralized exchanges, including Binance, Kraken, Bybit, Bitmart, Crypto.com, OKX, all of these different major exchanges educating the public on what exactly are Bitcoin runes. We already had Binance teasing this before runes even came out, but now they're educating different holders and educating their audience about what are Bitcoin runes. We even have things like Bybit adding in dog USDT perpetual contracts. This just happened, I believe, yesterday or within the last 24 hours. And then over the past week, even crypto.com is starting to educate about these Bitcoin runes. So it makes no sense for them to educate the public on this if they don't plan on integrating that support. And yeah, that's one of my big reasons why I think this runes market is just so early, is the fact that a lot of these major players are getting involved and investing a lot into building the infrastructure and adding support to the space. And right now, a lot of people still don't know how to actually get involved. And if you're one of those people, watch my Getting Started on Bitcoin Runes video, where you can learn about the different wallets and sites that you need to know to get started today. Because the moment that all these centralized exchanges add support is the moment that you missed out on a big opportunity of getting in before a lot of the public actually knows how to. Now that all that is said, let's get into the top 10 here. So FeHu, or I hope I'm saying that right, is the first rune ever etched. A lot of you guys know that, and they have an absolutely ridiculous market cap because 99% of the supply was actually pre-mined and is in the hands of the team. And they even made a meme about it a couple weeks ago saying, hey, this is our tokenomics. 99% is going to the team and then 1% is going to the public. Now they had to spend a crazy amount of money on actually locking in this first rune. And I think a lot of people are speculating that it doesn't make any sense for them to just kill their own market and have this absolutely ridiculous FDV that you guys can see over on Magic Eden. Now the speculation is right now is that they're just going to simply burn these 99% of tokens. And if that's the case, the circulating market cap would actually be around $30 million, which based on Magic Eden right now would place it at around the 10th largest token. So I know some people in our alpha group have been getting into this and speculating that that's what they're going to do and that they're going to do that soon. But as of now, it's still speculation and we haven't really seen too many additional announcements recently. The second one on the list is Dog Go to the Moon, run by Leonidas, and this coin has been going absolutely crazy and is definitely the biggest play when it comes to the runes ecosystem. Now it's been tiptoeing around that 1 billion number. It hasn't really hit that 1 billion market cap yet, but I think it's around 920 million and it keeps getting super close, and I think this is a major number for it to get past. What's interesting is it wasn't listed on any sort of centralized exchanges, with the exception of just getting listed as a perpetual future over on Bybit. So outside of that, I have a hard time believing that Binance and all these major players that are trying to get involved aren't going to go for the largest meme coin over on the ecosystem with the largest market cap. Now I know they said that they don't actually have any supply for these listings and these exchanges are going to have to buy up the supply in order to actually list them. And a lot of people were calling Leonidas crazy, but we've been seeing that this has actually been taking place and a lot more people are starting to pay attention to it. So I have a little bit of a bag right now. I actually had said on this channel back when it was in whales pre-market, when it was around 100 to a $200 million market cap, and now it's sitting around 5x from that. So pretty crazy if you had gone in at the time. But yeah, I would just be paying close attention to it now. I think that Dog has really segmented itself as the major player in the runes ecosystem, and there isn't another project out there that is really getting the level of exposure and community engagement as this actual token has. So keep your eyes on it. I think that it could continue to run. Yes, getting in right now after it's pumped so much is a little bit more risky, but you still have a lot of upside in my opinion. And now, like I said, before even being on any major centralized exchanges, it's already a top 100 token and one of the highest valued memes out there. The next update here is RuneCoin, or RSIC. I haven't really seen too much updates from them outside of them being able to purchase the domain runecoin.com. So I'm gonna keep a close eye on this one. This is one of the OGs, so to speak, when it comes to the rune space, and they really started the farming meta. So I'll be paying close attention to it. I don't own any right now, but I believe it's the second largest market cap if you aren't including FeHu, which has an overly inflated market cap because 99% of the tokens aren't circulating. When it comes to Pups, which is the second largest meme coin on runes, and they actually have a BRC20 token as well as Solana token, they are almost done with their burnable ordinal, which was their runes pup, which can be burned for their Pups token. So if you have one of these Pups ordinals, make sure you do that claim before June 8th in order to actually get your tokens. I believe that those tokens are more valuable than the actual ordinal itself, or it's somewhere near that. Another thing to be aware of is that you can still take these Pups tokens from Solana and BRC20 and burn them in order to get this rune version. So what's happening is this rune is actually the lowest valuation out of all of the different areas for this token, simply because people will burn their Pups in order to get the rune version whenever the rune version goes more high in price. And they said down here that there's no deadline yet to burn these BRC20 Pups. So it's one of those situations where after the 8th, we know there's not going to be more supply coming in from those ordinals, but we do know that every time this pumps, until they put a deadline on this, there is going to be that additional sell pressure or that additional arbitrage. All that being said though, I think the Pups token has done very well. It's been performing over the past month, and they have one of the strongest communities as well as memes as well as branding that I've seen, and they've been executing their project at a high level. And I think if DOG can get listed on Binance and all these other centralized exchanges, it makes sense that Pups token is going to be one of those tokens listed as well. The next project here is Bank of Nakamoto Dollar, and this is actually a very interesting one where they just surpassed $1 million worth of TVL. And literally before I recorded this video, guys, I think that this Bank of Nakamoto Dollar was maybe around a $50-60 million market cap, and now it's all the way at $124 million market cap, and this is within a day. So pretty insane results. And if you don't know anything about this Bank of Nakamoto Dollar, they created the first synthetic US dollar over on Bitcoin called NUSD, and basically you can buy that token, and simply by holding it in your wallet, you are going to be rewarded every single block with their actual Bank of Nakamoto Dollar token. And I believe right now it's something like a 700% APY. Now, one of the things that's a little bit risky is they say that they're actually backing all of this money with the USDE, but the thing is they don't actually have that claim up yet. So for whatever reason, NUSD breaks peg and it goes down to 90 cents or something like that instead of $1, they don't have the capabilities of you actually being able to exchange that for an actual dollar or for this actual USDE. So pretty interesting stuff how they're making this stable coin. And I think a lot of people are buying into this token simply because 6.25% of all of the supply for these Nakamoto dollars is going to people that have this NUSD, and I think a lot of people haven't stayed on top of that as of yet. Now, the only risk with doing something like this is that it's not actually backed until you can redeem it, in my opinion, so there is a risk there, but outside of that, it seems like a pretty high APY, and that's why some people are chasing it even with that risk. After phase 1, which is this USDE backing using Athena, they're actually going to go towards a delta neutral hedging that's all going to be on the layer 1. I'll have this article in the description if you want to learn a little bit more about it, or maybe I'll make a video on them in the future. So pretty interesting stuff. I haven't personally gotten this NUSD, but just be aware, guys, that if you want to get involved, you'll simply have to buy this NUSD. You can't even mint it yet. Hold it in one of your wallets that's not a centralized exchange, and then in the future you're going to be able to claim this first airdrop. And just be aware that this token or this rune is probably going to dump a little bit once this airdrop actually goes out, because this whole entire farming and emissions is 6.25% of the total supply, even though this is going to be stretched out over multiple airdrops from my understanding. Next rune here is Epic from the Book of Blob, and I wasn't able to find too many updates about this project outside of them making this really cool 3D audio visual scene with neurogenerative art. So it seems like a new type of art. I'm not exactly sure how this is made yet, but all I've been seeing from them recently is them teasing this whole entire art. I don't know how exactly this is going to work. They also had events recently at Ordinals Lisbon, for example, and they also had events at Consensus that you could join if you were a holder as well. Outside of that though, I don't really know what their plans are with this. I don't think a lot of people know what their plans are with this, so it's just a little bit speculative right now, but this looks pretty cool. The next rune here is actually from Buoyant Capital, and this is Lobo the Wolf, which has also gone on a massive run. And the whole premise behind Lobo, or why it's going crazy, is you're actually going to be able to stake your Lobo soon, and they created a moon fund by the Buoyant Capital starting with $50,000. And what they're going to do is they're going to take the different profits that they make from this capital fund, which Buoyant Capital is known for just making a bunch of different trades, getting into different investments, blah, 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 blah. And they're essentially taking a percentage of that profit and distributing it with the Lobo stakers, as well as reinvesting to grow the fund. So first, they're going to take 70% of the money, they're going to buy back this Lobo token, and then they distribute it to everyone that's staking these Lobo tokens. So it could be pretty interesting. $50,000 is not a lot to start off with, especially compared to the market cap of the token right now, but it looks like they even mentioned that they could boost the fund at any time with $100K, $500K, or even $1 million. And this is not actually out of the realm of possibility, simply because Buoyant Capital has already showcased them spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on just getting in one of these early etchings for their runes, and they definitely have the capital to make something happen. So it looks like this is more of a test run, and this is why it's been pumping as of recently. Now on to Decentralized, a rune that I'm still holding and I still think is undervalued or a little bit slept on. For those that don't know, Decentralized is from the CyberKongz team. It's the second rune ever etched, and as of now, we haven't really known what exactly this token or what exactly this rune is used for. But recently they held a Discord space where they've been talking a little bit more about what their plans are. They hired on a bunch of advisors, a lot of well-known people in the space, and they've begun to scale the actual project. They're saying in the short term, the foundation is currently being built for Decentralized with 1, making it accessible as possible, and 2, building and forging the decentralized community to be as powerful as possible for the next steps. They then say something major is happening in June, which is give the people what they want and expect more content, increasing the overall story of Decentralized. They're saying in the long term that's not a NFT utility token, that it is an encompassment of Bitcoin culture and provenance. It's a rune that exists with the intention for individuals to feel like they own a piece of history in symbolization of the rune protocol development. And then they're saying the user experience on Bitcoin is extremely difficult to navigate, so they see this as an opportunity. There's a lack of decentralized applications, protocols, launchpads, and more, which highlights the room for innovation. So kind of the speculation behind this, guys, is that they could potentially have some sort of PFP that comes out in the month of June, and this is giving the people what they want, because a lot of people have mentioned this. There might have to be something with their Promethean ordinals as well as this decentralized token. And then in the longer term, it seems like they're trying or aiming to build up some of the infrastructure when it comes to the Bitcoin space and potentially make that decentralized, such as potentially making different protocols, launchpads, etc., etc. Now, this is a little bit of speculation, but personally, I think that this is the route they're going to go, and I'm still holding my decentralized token. If you watched my videos earlier on about decentralized, I thought that it was actually going to go on a much bigger run to above $200 million in the short term, based on what we saw RSIC and DOG at the time. But because there hasn't been as much marketing, and because people don't actually know what this token is used for, and because of the fact that it looked like the ordinal really had priced this airdrop in compared to RSIC, which hadn't been priced in, we haven't seen the performance of this actual decentralized of where I thought it would go. So if you're someone that had bought in at that time, this is definitely turning into a mid-term or longer term hold. I'm still a believer in their project and I'm holding it, but it looks like our time horizon is going to be a little bit longer when compared to something like DOG, which is a lot more understandable to people out there. I'm going to go over some of these next ones relatively quickly. For those that don't know, the Runes X Bitcoin is actually Xname, and they're trying to build the whole entire naming service when it comes over to Bitcoin. Besides them getting some additional listings on centralized exchanges such as Bitmart and some additional compatibility, I haven't really seen too much going on. I don't own any of this right now, but I've got my eyes on it. Another one that I quickly want to go over is actually the Runeix token, and what they're trying to do is build a Bitcoin layer 2 that scales Bitcoin for rune trading. And they actually have their platform called Rune Chain where you can go on and make some of these different swaps. And I don't think that they've actually gotten a lot of traction on their platform yet. It looks like maybe they've gotten about $15,000 today as far as volume, which is definitely on the lower side, but I have a close eye on this. My only problem is that there's so many different layer 2s out there and competing that I don't know how much traction they're going to get, especially as centralized exchanges really add in support for all these different runes. And that's probably where a lot of people are going to trade just because it's very expensive to trade over on Bitcoin. But I've got my eyes on it. And if you have their token, you actually can get above a 30% APR right now from simply staking their token. So I'll keep my eyes on it. I don't have any as of right now. That pretty much covers everything in the top 10. One of the runes that I did want to give a shout out though that has my attention that isn't in the top 10 is actually Cats in the Sats. I haven't bought any yet, but I actually really like the name of this. I think it's very clever. I think the branding is cool overall. And one of the things I really like to look at is the overall volume. So we can see in the last 7 days that this Cats in the Sats has actually gotten the 15th most amount of volume, but it's only sitting at around a $16 million market cap. And right now, one of the biggest narratives for meme coins of this cycle have been cats instead of dogs. So one of the biggest players is going to be this Cats in the Sats. And then you also have Billion Dollar Cat that has been going on a big run as of recently. So I have my eyes on both of these just on the premise that if cats are exploding on other chains, that there's going to be some cats that explode over on Bitcoin. And the fact that the market cap is only $16 million for this Cats in the Sats, as well as only $8 million for Billion Dollar Cat, it at least needs to be on your radar as something to pay attention to. And both of these had fair mints and distributions. So that's another important thing to keep in mind. And once again, guys, one of the things that I really like to do is actually go over to Gennidata and see what the actual distribution is when it comes to these different tokens. Because one thing you might realize is there might be some holders, even in a fair distribution, that were able to get a crazy amount of tokens. For Cats in the Sats in particular, I believe the largest holder has about 2.48% of the supply, which is a little bit on the higher side, but is still relatively low overall. And when you go over this list of holders, the vast majority of holders have under 1%, which I like to see. And you can do this with any of the other projects out there. And I highly recommend doing your due diligence when it comes to investing into these different tokens with their holder distribution, because just the fact that they said fair distribution doesn't mean that the holder distribution is actually good. Now, getting out of the runes, I did want to cover some different dApps that I've been paying attention to. One of them is Liquidium, which is actually a borrowing and lending protocol when it comes to ordinals, and they're going to add in runes as well as BRC20 tokens in the future. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is they actually have a points program right now where you can make money doing these different borrows and lends and then also accumulate points. And it's pretty early right now where not a lot of people know about this. So if you're someone that has additional liquidity or looking for additional liquidity, you can go on this site and actually make some points, and then hopefully those points will translate to their token in the future that may or may not be profitable. The big thing is though, is they've already built out a lot of infrastructure that's a little bit harder to do over on the Bitcoin scene. So we can expect that if they do have a token, which I think is part of their whole plan, that this token could do well. Another dApp to pay attention to that I actually am familiar with over on the Cardano world is actually Fluid Tokens. Now they have their whole entire Cardano borrowing and lending platform, but they got into Bitcoin recently, and they actually have the first permissionless lending, borrowing, and trading dApp for runes. And you can go onto their site with their mainnet where they have all this borrowing and lending, as well as swaps that are coming in the very near future. So you don't have to buy very specific amounts of runes or bundles of runes, but instead you're going to be able to buy exactly the amount you want. And this is actually something that Magic Eden is going to add but hasn't added in as of yet. The final borrowing and lending protocol that I wanted to bring to your guys' attention that I don't believe is actually out yet is Runeix. And this is Pipe and Runes lending. For those that don't know Pipe, watch my video about it. I just made a video going over the whole entire track ecosystem, and Pipe is one of those things in those ecosystems, but they're going to be adding in all this borrowing and lending for these different runes starting with dog. Now, I don't think this is out as of yet because when I went to their site, it looks like it's all testnet stuff, but at least something to keep on your radar, because if they do something very similar to Liquidium, you could potentially stack up some of these different points and make some money from simply borrowing and lending. The final part of this video is going over some ordinals that I think are worth having on your radar. radar. What's really funny about these Frux guys is that they were only around $67 and they went all the way to $1,700 within a couple of days. This all happened within the last week, and now they're around $1,300. And if you were part of our alpha group, we actually made a call saying that this was a good play to go for. And there are different members in our group that were able to turn $67 into $1,500, $1,600 within a day. So ordinal inscription mints are starting to come back. There's starting to be a lot more attention on these ordinals, and something like Frux is a really great example where there is a lot of money to be made over on the Bitcoin scene. So if you've been looking for an alpha group or a community that's covering these different ordinal plays or these different rune token plays, join our Discord in the description, open up a support ticket, ask for a trial pass, and we'll get you hooked up with all this different information for free. And another thing is we actually have something that we're working on behind the scenes that's going over on Bitcoin. So definitely pay attention to what we're doing as well. It's still pretty early on, but I wanted to at least tease it now so that people that have been watching my videos and my Bitcoin stuff can be a little bit more prepared. The reason I brought up Frux is there is a new one called Quacks, which is literally an exact copy of what Frux did. Now, we don't know if this is from the same team. It looks like it's from the same team. The website looks the same. The marketing looks the same. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous how similar these are. And I think Quacks is going to absolutely print just like Frux did. So if you're someone that's watching this video, go to their site, put in your wallet address, like and engage with this project, because I think there is a potential to make some money here, especially depending on what they do. As far as two other ones on my radar, we have Lucid, which a lot of people know about Lucid. I don't want to go too into detail in this video because this video is already super long, but check out Lucid. We expect that this will do very well depending on what their mint price is, and they definitely look like a project that is going to be here in the long term. And then another one to pay attention to is Janxies. I haven't actually done too much research into this one yet, but I like what I'm seeing so far, and a lot of people in our alpha group have recommended for me to personally look into this, so maybe I'll make a deeper video in the future. But yeah, guys, that pretty much wraps up the video today. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Once again, join our Discord if you want a free alpha trial pass, and pay attention to our Jellycubes Twitter because we're going to be announcing stuff in the future about what we're personally working on over in the Bitcoin space. And yeah, if you enjoyed this, subscribe because I'm going to be making one of these videos on a weekly basis to keep you guys up to date with the Bitcoin ecosystem. But yeah, that wraps everything up, and I'll see you guys later.